Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. I want to welcome you to another great episode. We have Meg Rentschler, and Meg and I are going to talk about coaching. And the reason I want to do this is because so many people, they don't really hire a good coach. They don't really know what to hire. They don't know what makes a good coach, and they know that coaching helps. But sometimes it just doesn't. And we want to make sure you never experience that again. We're going to talk about how coaching up levels team performance, and how you can, hire a great business coach if you want, or a great personal coach if you want. So without further ado, we're going to go invite Meg in. Those of you who are interested in having meaningful automated follow-up in your life, we are going to be releasing our SaaS product, and we are now in the pre-enrollment phase of that process. So if you're interested in that, or you're interested in predictable revenue growth, we're also releasing a new program in that in 2025. If you're interested in that, reach out to us at YouMatter, YOUMATTER, at ceosalesstrategies.com. And let us know, and we'll get on a call together and we will talk. All right, let's go talk to Meg, and let's talk about how you can get yourself a great coach if you would like to be having a coach. And the reality is you should always, as you'll find out. Here we go. Hey, Meg, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
Doug, thanks so much for inviting me. I've been looking forward to it.
Folks, Meg and I have known each other for a little while. I was on her podcast, and thank you for that. And we found so much brilliance between us that we figured, well, let's bring Meg on here and let her share her brilliance. And we're going to talk about the impact of coaching on team performance and business growth. And we're going to talk about business coaching for performance, and why it's essential, whether you're in business and you want coaching, or coaching and performance, or, whatever you want to figure out how to hire a business coach, or professional coaching is right for you. What we're looking for here is for you to understand one thing, and one thing I would say is primary, that if you're looking for a business coach for your small, medium, or large size or enterprise business, to understand one thing: you should always be being coached. There's value in always having an outside influence looking in at your business. And, I have two of them on a regular basis that are coaching me because they see things that I don't see. It's that simple. So, Meg, I have to ask the first question, which is, why does this happen? I know that we got an outside influence looking in, but what is the step beyond that? Like, why is it so invaluable to have a coach always on your side?
Thanks for that. And I want to kind of say, in addition to that, always on your side, yet not always a cheerleader. Because if a coach is being effective, they're both supporting you and challenging you. And that in and of itself is part of the reason why people go faster, further, with more clarity than if they're trying to figure it out themselves. Think about the last time you had a struggle in front of you and how hard it was to get out of the weeds. When we get caught in a struggle or we have a challenge in front of us, we're often in that place of telling ourselves stories that aren't really helpful to overcoming, or getting caught up in the swirl, getting dragged kind of in those undercurrents. So a coach with outside eyes and outside ears, and knowing you and knowing your goals and understanding the destination that you're trying to get to, can help ask those questions and offer that reflection and partnership to help leaders who are trying to do amazing things, right, Doug? I mean, aren't we all trying to do amazing things in the world? Get out of that swirl. And also, sometimes even if we're not in the swirl, it's still helpful to be challenged to think differently. to open up. And that's what coaches do.
So Meg, but what's the difference? Because I know sometimes people go, well, why don't I just hire a therapist, right? Like, so what's the difference? And you and I both know what's the difference between business coaching and business therapy. So, and
Right.
sometimes they cross the line here and there, I think, they blur. What would you say is the difference? Like, does a coach just work on business challenges, or they work on personal challenges with let's say the CEO or the owner of the company or anyone in between?
Love that question. And I've spent the first 20 plus years of my career as a therapist prior to going into executive coaching. So I really understand the difference between the two modalities. And what I would say about that, Doug, is that a therapist is, so first of all, I hear from leaders, if we talk about feelings, if we talk about impact, anything personal, that's therapy. And it's like, no, that's life. That's being a human being. I have yet to find a human being who doesn't have feelings that impact their personal decisions. So what I would say, the difference is often the first of all, that coaching tends to be more from present to future, tends to be very future focused, very goal focused. And when there is something that, as a human being, I'm having a difficult time getting over that has impacted me from the past, and I'm not able to sort of process that and begin to move forward, but I continue to get sucked into that. That's where therapy comes in. A therapist is going to help us unpack some of those things that are influencing us from the past that get in the way of us reaching the future that we want to go to. So often I do similar things as a coach that I did as a therapist, but the topics that we're talking about or the direction that we're moving in tends to be a little different with, getting coaching clients to get that traction towards the goals that they're looking for. Now, as a therapist, I was trying to get my clients to get that traction as well. It just ends up being sort of the things that we discuss might be different in more past and barriers, that might be more trauma or embedded than some of the things that we deal with in coaching. Does that help?
It does. And the thing that I'd like to add to that is I've never found a business problem truly to be a business problem. It always has a personal agenda attached to the business.
Because
You know?
you're dealing with human beings, correct?
Right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. And so, and we all have, it doesn't have to be trauma per se from our past. It could just be a pattern of a habitual behavior that we were rewarded for and we repeated it and it worked in our past. But now when we apply that same behavior to the business problem,
Mhm.
it doesn't work as well, right? And so I'll give you an example. Like I was just talking with somebody about this, they were taught in their youth that if there was a discrepancy in the family, to come top down and take control over that situation and resolve it, boom, right then and there. Well, they're trying that now in their company. And so
And
they're
how's that
having
working for them?
no, they're having a really high exit rate out of the company because, people are just like, I don't want to be in this environment. And so that's where I would say, a habitual past behavior is manifesting itself in the where it is now, or a fear that might be presenting itself. Let's say that, revenue or profitability is lower than we want. And instead of us really, saying, okay, we're going to push the pedal down, we had a habit of when things got a little bit tight in the family, we would just pull back. And so we then try to pattern that behavior. And, your family might care about you, but the business doesn't. That's what I know, right? Business is money in, money out equals something. That's simple, hopefully mom, dad, preacher, teacher, whatever, in the past, brother, sister doesn't feel that way. Right. So, that's what I know about coaching. So how does the impact of of a CEO or the owner or the leaders of the company, them getting coaching themselves, how does it affect their team performance and business growth?
So with that, you pointed out we all have patterns that tend to be subconscious. I mean, so in that, if I have a pattern that's coming from things that I've learned in the past, we all know the whole concept of what got you here won't necessarily get you to the next level. So when we are stuck in our patterns, we don't see them. Having a coach partner with you to ask about that, to explore, to raise awareness about that is going to influence the way that I coach as a leader, coach my team. So, yes, I'm getting coached, but hopefully, and in my experience, when I'm able to help the executives and the CEOs that I work with learn more curiosity, ask more questions to bring out the wisdom and the talents on their team, they become more effective as leaders, and everybody listen for it, their team becomes more effective because they're being challenged to step into their greatness. I will say to my clients, what has put these people on your team? Everybody who's on your team is on your team for a reason. So how are you? These are my Michigan roots coming out. Everybody ready? I'm a farm girl from Michigan. How are you harvesting your team's wisdom and all that they're bringing before you start planting your seeds everywhere? I get that as leaders, we've got great seeds to plant. Totally get that. And I get that it's a balance. But what I often see with the leaders that I work with is they're so ready to overplant the field to just put that nothing else can grow. So when I say, well, how are you harvesting? How are you asking questions and getting the people on your team to use the gray matter between their ears and to participate in the solution, then we've got a rich harvest, right? But if all I'm doing is throwing my stuff at it, nobody else's wisdom or plants can come out, then I'm not as effective as I could be as a leader. And that's why I love to help the leaders that I work with learn how to use just a little bit of coaching. I'm not teaching them to be a professional coach. I'm teaching them to be curious, to ask questions, to challenge their people to use their brains.
So, so Meg, so firstly, folks, we're speaking with Meg Rentschler, and she has a company called A Focus on Results. It's an executive coaching company. And I wanted her to come on here today because I want you all to consider, if you don't have a coach, to get a coach. Doesn't have to be me, doesn't have to be Meg, could be if you want it to be, but get a coach, that outside influence that's going to be, and get the right kind of coach, right? That coach is going to tell you, coaching isn't always about showing you what you want to see or telling you what you want to hear, but it is to get you to the next level of where you say you want to go. And nothing will accelerate your growth faster than having a coach, especially an experienced coach who understands the pathway that you're looking to go. So, Meg, what you just said, is that like the number one challenge that business owners, CEOs have, or is there another number one challenge that, like, because you've coached so many people, there's got to be a pattern overlap, I would imagine, that you see over and over and over again, raising up to the surface. What would be that?
I think that is, I believe that because I'm in this position, I have to have all the answers. I have to I have to lead with my expertise. The value that I bring is my experience, my expertise, my ability to answer every question. And what I would challenge is that actually what research shows us is that it's your willingness to be there and to engage your team, challenge your team, bring your team's abilities forward and then make good decisions with that. Yes, your expertise is important, but it's sort of like the chicken and the egg kind of thing. Like, where do we put what comes first? And I mean, again and again and again, I hear the leaders that I work with they're being asked to do more with less. There's only so much time in the day. No matter how brilliant we are, we all get the same amount of time in the day. So being able to use the resources and the time and the people and being able to work all of those together to the best outcomes, I think, to me, again and again, what I see is I have to, the value that I bring is that I answer everything myself. And I would say that the best leaders that I've worked with are ones that utilize all those things so that we're making those decisions together. What about you? What do you see?
Well, I tend to work on the revenue side of the growth of the business consistently. So I see massive lack of clarity as, to the truthful goal that they're looking at. Most business owners, CEOs, or even people within the company, right? I mean, especially in the sales side, they're not really clear on what the truthful goal is for them on, this year, never mind, in the next 2 years. So what ends up happening is they start building something and they continue to keep building it. And then as they're building it, they're like, this isn't really what I want to do. And
We don't have,
so,
yeah,
but then they're so entrenched in it. I've got $500,000 invested in this. I've got, 6 million invested in that, or I've got, even $50,000 invested in this for some people, and so so they hold on to that because, well, I'm going to lose it. And I
sort of
think,
throwing good money after bad, huh?
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And it's like, so sometimes we have to clear out. I'm not saying get rid of everything, but we have to clear out all the distractions and get very clear on what our focus is. Because when they're in that position, they're saying yes to things just to fulfill the revenue growth. And it's not really what they want to do. So it's taking them in their life down a path they don't want to go. Then they end up becoming resentful, rightfully, over
Mm-hmm.
it. Um, I remember Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks said in an interview, he became the biggest star of music. And, it ended up costing him his marriage, and it ended up costing him all kinds of things that he had to go through on the downside. And they asked him, Garth, what, you went through all this stuff. Was it worth it? And he said, I can't complain because I got everything I absolutely wanted and everything I asked for. Right. So sometimes downsides come with clarity, is what I found, Meg.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes massive downsides come with lack of clarity. So I would like people to err on the side of massive clarity and understand where they want to go, because then I think, to your point, Michael Dell said, my success was hire people who are way better than I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they've always got this control on the business or the control on the day, and they're trying to do, as you said, I got to have all the answers. I got to have this answer. I got to have that answer. It is a lot of pressure on people, especially if they don't want to go in that direction in the first place.
Right.
So that's what
Right.
I see. And what happens when people say, after you get through working with them and the light comes on, they go, "Oh, I don't have to have all the answers." Like, what's kind of the? I never asked this question, so I'm curious. What would be the epiphany moments that come out of that for people?
So many. It first starts with like just the permission right out of it, like, oh my gosh, if I begin to communicate differently and invite people into the conversation, just that it's like this collective sigh of relief at first, just like, oh my gosh. And it's such a like aha moment that then opens up the permission to ask questions, to
Mm,
begin to invite people into the conversation. But this is what I hear again and again from leaders. I never would have, I thought that like this was the path. This was the only path towards that solution. Then I trusted my team. I asked some questions. I invited people in, and they came up with solutions I mean, we're all kind of heading towards where we want to head, but there's lots of different ways to get there. And often when we get the heck out of the way, what comes up as a solution is more innovative and creative. And so, what I hear from leaders on a regular basis is A, my people feel more appreciated. B, they're staying longer. So, our retention rate is increasing, which saves the company all sorts of money. And oh my gosh, I'm learning from my team. I'm learning through this process together that yes, I have all this great experience and I have all these gifts to offer, but that doesn't mean I can't still learn. And so that's the other thing that I'm hearing from leaders is when I lead just a little bit differently, we all know that leaders are in their position for a reason. But when they use some more uh, coaching as a leadership style, when they're a little more inviting in and bringing everybody in and people feel appreciated and heard, the leaders learn from their teams as well.
Well, I always laugh about that one, Meg, because um, a lot of times when companies hire me and I go, do the initial analysis that I do to help them build their growth plan, traditionally, I'm reporting back the things that people have already said about 5, 7, 10, 12 times already to the leadership. And the leadership says to me, wow, that is a great idea. But they haven't haven't acknowledged that it's come from within anyways. So I think that if leaders, and again, I think this goes back to, even though we're trying to separate, there's a business problem and a personal agenda. I think the personal agenda is usually what captures people and gives that block that
Mm-hmm.
happens in the business. So, I wanted to ask this question, which was, if people are thinking of hiring a business coach or, somebody for
Mm-hmm.
professional coaching, or I don't know, maybe for, business coaching, just what people would call business coaching, right? Or coaching and performance. What should they be looking for in a coach? Like, what makes it successful when they engage in a coaching relationship versus, just hiring any old business coach for their small, medium, or large size business?
Another great question. So I would say that coaching is a relational situation, right? So it really starts with chemistry. You want to be able to meet with and more than one coach. I would recommend that you interview 3 coaches to determine A, what is it that you want to achieve? So the question that I like to ask people when I'm doing a chemistry call with them or when they've reached out to me is, let's imagine that we work together for the next year. What do you want to tell me is different professionally and personally in your life that would have made your investment in coaching worth your while? Let's imagine we're sitting across from one another 12 months from now, and you're telling me what is different now. So, first of all, like, how is that coach creating a vision with you? And then, is that something that the coach is able to, like, are they upfront and honest about, is that something that they work with? But the other side of that is in that chemistry call, who's doing the most talking? Is it the coach or is it the client? Are you able to sort of share what's important to you? And then I would get really clear about who do they work with, that are not who, like that they're going to give you names of other people, but what kinds of experiences do they have with similar issues? What's their result driven plan? How do they tend to work with people? Is that something that's comfortable for you? Is that, and if you're going to engage with a coach, I certainly hope that that coach is going to challenge you to think differently. We're all, and this is my favorite thing. I teach coaching to hundreds of students. This is what I believe to be true. We all look through the life through our lens, and our lens tends to be pretty small often, especially if we're struggling with an issue. We're looking through a kind of a tiny lens. A good coach is going to understand, they're going to look through that lens and understand what you're looking at. And then they're going to challenge you to think more broadly. And they're going to challenge the way that you're looking and what else could be true. And what are you telling yourself? And what patterns and behaviors are in there that are working for you and which ones are working against you? And ultimately, as our lens gets bigger, it makes room for more possibility. It makes room for more options. And that's what a coach will do. And you've got to have a coach who's willing to challenge you. So I would ask a coach that I might hire, how are you going to challenge me? What's your process of working with people?
And
And are you used to working with the kinds of things I want to work with? I'm going to be quiet now.
no, I think these are all valuable things. And I was writing some things down as well. And, I would also add to this. Well, firstly, if you don't have a coach that's going to challenge you folks, you have the wrong person. So if you're in your first session and you didn't get any challenging moments out of that first session on that discovery or chem call or whatever people want to call it, you have the wrong coach. And you won't, especially if you're doing this on, well, it doesn't matter if it's business or personal. Now, I don't mean challenging you in the context of, they're rude and disruptive and abrupt and, cutting you off and all that. I mean, they got to make you think, wow, okay, I didn't know that. Shoot, I want to know more about that. Right. Or, geez, I was thinking this way. Maybe I should be thinking this other way. Right. If you're not getting this epiphany or aha out of it, you've got the wrong person likely. And please don't give them more than 2 sessions, because if you continue to keep going, you're going to go in that other direction you don't want to go. So the reason I bring this up, Meg, is so many people, because we've had so much coaching experience between us. I mean, literally more than decades, between us,
What are
right?
you talking about?
Well, I'm talking about me. I have all those decades, and you got, you got like a few years, but it added together. We have decades and decades of experience. I mean, I'm going to say 60 plus years of coaching
Mm-hmm.
experience. And so we know you've got to have that coach that absolutely is going to get you to think differently, and you should come off that first coaching call thinking, okay, I got to think through these things, and I've got to actually really, assess, where I'm at, because if I want to get to point B and I'm at point A and I'm not getting that assessment process going on, you're gonna move. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the first thing I add. And the second thing that I would add to that too is take a look at this person's, I would say, life in business or life in the personal side. If you're getting coached on the personal side, like, if they're coaching you on leadership, do they have experience in leadership?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't, you don't probably want to be there. You might get lucky, but if you're running $100 million company and the person has never experienced what it's like to run $100 million company, either from doing it or working with people who have been doing it, then you don't want to hire somebody who works on startups, let's say, when you've got a mature company and you've got a staff of, say, 130 people you're managing, and they're only used to founder-led sales where they have 2 assistants and 1 operations person. It's a very different game. So look at that. And the reason I say this, Meg, is because I see this all the time when, it's like I had 4 different coaches, and then they'll talk to me and they'll say, well, this, and all of a sudden they'll say to me, my gosh, I got more in the first 20 minutes than I get in the last 4 months. And it's like, well,
Right.
because I've been there, I've done this, I understand
Mhm.
exactly what they're going through, and I know you do as well. And and this all stemmed from actually a therapist, actually, Meg, so years and years and years ago, marital therapist, right? It was a little bit of, I was young and
Mm.
we were having a little communication challenge, and we went to this marital therapist, and I walked out of there going, something doesn't feel right. I can't place my finger on it, but I said this to my wife, and she said, well, I didn't quite get it the way you did, but I said, something's not right. And so then we called back to schedule an appointment 2 weeks later, and she said, well, I'm not taking any more appointments. And I said, well, why? She goes, well, I'm going through a divorce. And I was like, okay, how many divorces have you been through? And she said, this is my fourth.
Oh my.
And I'm like, okay, you're a marriage counselor. Well, you got experience in divorce. Maybe you should be divorce, coaching versus marital counseling, right? And so it was like, aha, I have to look at the source, and I didn't get any aha moments out of our first session. You know what I'm saying? So that's where
Right.
all of that came from. Would you agree with this philosophy, or would you disagree with this philosophy?
As a whole, I would say, that it's sort of a balance, that in general, if you are good at your trade and if you're challenging people if you're understanding the way that they're seeing it and challenging them to see things differently, theoretically, you should be able to practice your trade regardless. However, I would say that it kind of comes to, is the coach clear about where they bring their best value? And that's what I would say, is that, if I'm not going to want to, like you said, if I specialize in startups, then I don't want to reach out to somebody who's a CEO of a, multi-million dollar company, because that's not my specialty. So I would just encourage people to pay attention to what is their coach's specialty. And I would also encourage any coach that happens to be listening to be really clear about what is your sweet spot. Where do you get the best results? And offer that, because that's how ethically we sort of bring the value that we do through the coaching
Well,
process.
that makes a lot of sense, Meg. I mean, we do this in the medical field, right? I mean, if you have a hematologist, let's say somebody, studies hematology, blood,
Yes,
they're not doing chiropractic. You know what I mean?
right,
Like, so it's, or maternity, or,
right.
something like that. So we do this in the medical field. So, that's, I think, wise advice to do it in the coaching field as well. And those of you who are, saying, yeah, I probably ought to get a coach, right? I mean, you ask those questions up front,
Yeah. Who do you
because
work with? What kind of results do you get with certain populations? And coaches, be honest.
yeah, yeah, and that's the key, right? Because it's a match, and when the match is made and it's right, it's that match made in heaven. And so, Meg, let's say somebody's like, okay, I need some executive leadership coaching. I need some coaching on team performance, or and they go, I think I want to call Meg or get a hold of Meg. How do they do so?
Thank you for that. So either I'm on LinkedIn at Meg Rentschler. I think I'm the only Meg Rentschler on LinkedIn, but I'm also, this is easier because you don't have to spell Rentschler, Meg at afocusonresults.com. No big words in that one, just Meg at afocusonresults.com.
So that is afocusonresults.com. And Rentschler's Rentschler. Did I get that right?
That's right. You
Oh,
got it right. It's a big German, lots of slurring together, but yes, it's Rentschler.
well, I passed the spelling bee today, so that's good. And folks, we'll put all of this into the show notes. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Meg directly. Meg, thanks for being on the CEO Sales Strategies podcast today. Thanks for talking about coaching and bringing your expertise. I'm really grateful you were here.
Doug, it's always a joy to spend time with you. So thanks for having me.
What did you get for notes here? Did you figure out that you should be having a coach and that your coach should be challenging you and your coach should not always be that most comfortable call that you have, but it should be a call that is comforting because you are moving forward and that you're getting results from that process. A coach is looking from the outside in, and we always see things from the outside in differently than we see from the inside out. So I would recommend that you give a coach a try if you've never tried it. And I highly recommend if you tried it and you're having some struggles and you're trying to get some breakthroughs and you're trying to do everything on your own and you're like, oh, I'm smart and I can get that. Sometimes it only takes 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 coaching sessions to actually have those breakthroughs that you're looking for. And think about it. If you're going in the direction, right, and you're just 1 or 2 degrees off in that direction, but you go in that direction over a year, you're no longer 1 or 2 degrees off. You're going to be something like, 40 degrees off because, just going in that direction over a long period of time, it just draws you off the mark. And that's not where you want to be. So that is the value in coaching, continuously reorientating in that course that you're going. Just like if you're a pilot, you're flying from, New York to Los Angeles, you're always being blown off course and you're always going to come back on course because you have essentially a coach that you're looking at, which is the computer equipment telling you, and you have flight control helping you always, land in Los Angeles versus landing in, say, San Francisco, which would be far north. All right. So if you love this episode, I would say, please, please, please go give it a review. I appreciate all of you who are reviewing this very much. And again, if you're interested and you want to know more about automated, personalized, meaningful follow-up, that follow-up that follows up for you, where you will never drop a sale or never, have a relationship go stale on you, and it will constantly keep you top of mind, or if you're interested in growing your revenue reliably, predictably, and measurably in 2025, we are running out both founders groups for both offerings in right now, starting and into the early part of 2025. If you want to know more about that, just reach out to us at YouMatter, YOUMATTER, at ceosalesstrategies.com. Just send an email and we'll respond to you. And if and you both want to we will get on a call together and discuss what you're looking for and see how it matches with what we do. Until next time, this is Doug C. Brown saying, go out and sell something, sell a lot of it. Don't discount, because you got to make up for those discounts. You discount one thing, you might have to sell 5 to 10 to actually break even, and play win, win, win. You win, they win, another person wins. Everybody's happy. That's how you get more referrals and you continue to keep expanding the sale and the clientele in your business. Until next time, to your success.